The Jehovah's Witnesses just made a historic decision that will quite literally change the lives of Jehovah's Witnesses forever. And I gotta talk about it, so let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are looking at governing body member David Splain, as he is going to talk about higher education and why it might not be that bad after all. Quickly, before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It really helps it get out to more people on YouTube and is very much appreciated. And if you would consider subscribing to the channel, I would very much appreciate that as well, because I have a goal of getting to 45,000 subscribers by the end of the year. With all of that being said, let's do this.
Now, for the rest of our update, we're going to talk about secular education. And we'll be speaking primarily to young ones and their parents, although we all can benefit from this information. Many young people are asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? Of course, the best career is a life in full-time service. Even so, full-time servants need to support themselves financially. In some places, it's possible to earn a decent living without getting further education. In other lands, additional education is required if you hope to find employment that has reasonable hours and that pays fairly well. In such cases, a brother or sister may wonder, should I get additional education? If so, what type? Now, what do we mean by additional education? This refers to any secular education or training beyond the basic education provided by the government. It includes courses offered by universities, colleges, apprenticeships, trade schools, technical schools, vocational training, short courses, and continuing education. Is it appropriate for Christians to pursue additional education? With this update, we'd like to clarify our understanding. While there are dangers involved in pursuing certain forms of education, basically, whether to obtain additional education or not is a matter for personal decision. At Galatians 6:5.
Now, I'm no body language expert, but let's just rewind that and really focus in on his body language.
Basically, whether to obtain additional education or not is a matter for personal decision. At Galatians 6:5.
Subtly shakes his head no, looks down, shrugs his shoulders. This really betrays his emotions, I think. Misa thinks that, I don't know why I just turned into Jar Jar Binks there. Wow, that was pretty annoying to listen to, my bad. But I don't really think that he is bursting forth with jubilation as he is making this announcement, because it's embarrassing. If you have been one of the most prominent leaders of this organization who have historically made people's lives more difficult with an endless amount of rules. We'll get into this later, because I know a lot of people will say, well, hasn't that always been the case? Well, kind of, sort of, but not in some very important ways. But if you are someone that has had this long history, and there are no doubt examples that have been presented to him of people asking, like, well, isn't it okay? Isn't it just fine? Isn't it like not the end of the world if my kid goes to college and gets, finds a career that's going to be allowing them to pioneer or to be able to serve Jehovah or whatever the case might be? And they have always said, yeah, you can do that, but it might come with some consequences. So you really want to make sure that you think about that. Or if you are going to do it, make sure you're not promoting the idea. Make sure that, other people don't even really know about it. And so it's going to be embarrassing for someone to have this long history of making people's lives miserable by, holding on to this rule, this culture, this policy, and then to let that go and say, oh, well, maybe it wasn't all that important all along. It's embarrassing. It's very hard for people to admit that they were wrong about something, especially people in power. It's not something that they enjoy doing. Yeah, I guess we got this one wrong. And while they'll never really come out and say we were wrong, we all can read the room. I think he is very well aware that this is a subtle, tacit admission that, hey, the organization and their policies, they didn't really matter. So we were making people's lives miserable for absolutely no reason.
The Bible says, "For each one will carry his own load of responsibility." So each adult must make his or her own decision on whether to obtain additional education. Parents are also responsible for decisions regarding their child's education, and their guidance can prepare their child to make wise decisions regarding education once he's an adult. How can we make good decisions when considering additional education? Each adult Christian, and in the case of minor children, each family head, should prayerfully consider Bible principles and the unique factors involved with a certain educational program before making the decision. And while an elder or a mature friend may discuss with us the pros and cons about obtaining additional education, no Christian, including the elders, should judge a fellow Christian's personal decision on this matter.
No one should judge another Christian, I think, is just him talking around the fact that you will not get punished for letting your kids go to college now. I think that's what he's trying to say without saying that, because if he does, then they have to admit that, yeah, you could be punished for allowing your kids to go to college. And what type of punishment would that be? Well, in most cases, it would be like a social isolation thing, like, oh, well, that person is not exemplary. They're not setting a good example for other people because they're letting their kids go to college. And if you're not an exemplary Christian, people will need to monitor or even limit their association with you. This is how the Jehovah's Witnesses function. Without having a hard set rule that says if this, then that, they have this social pressure that takes care of it for them. So they don't even need to have a hard set rule. You know, that you allow your kid to go to college and people start looking at you sideways. And also, if you're someone in a position of power within the congregation, an elder or a ministerial servant or a pioneer, whatever the case might be, your qualifications for that position can get called into question. Let's actually look back at a leaked elder training video from a few years ago that shows exactly how this would play out in a congregation. If there is an elder and he decides he wants to let his kids go and get a higher education, what the protocol was for how to handle that situation.
Brothers, we are obligated to put the interests of the congregation first.
Brothers, with all due respect, I don't agree with you that the congregation is disturbed about my or my family's situation. I've been in the congregation for 20 years. I know the publishers very well, and I'm sure no one is disturbed about my daughters pursuing higher education.
Brown has served faithfully for many years. But the question that's within paragraph number 30 is important. How is he viewed by the congregation? Sad to say, the actions of his family have caused him to lose the respect of the congregation. In fact, some publishers have mentioned that if they need scriptural advice on family life, they'll just talk to another elder.
Thank you for those comments, Brother Williams. Brother Anderson, please.
The same paragraph says, if an appointed brother's children pursue higher education, does his life pattern show that he puts kingdom interests first in his life? I don't think any of us can honestly say that Brother Brown's family is viewed as putting kingdom interests first in their life.
That is a cause for concern. Brother Miller, please.
I agree with those comments. And in addition, the last question in paragraph 30 asks, does the pursuit of higher education interfere with regular meeting attendance, meaningful participation in field service, or other theocratic activities? His girls are not visible in the ministry, and because of their class schedule, they rarely are at meetings. It's obvious that spiritual things have become second place in their life.
So let me ask you, do you think that the elder body is accountable to Jehovah to uphold his high standards for appointed men. And isn't that what you would encourage them to do?
Yes.
That's why when we weighed all of the facts and the scriptural qualifications, as well as considering the direction from Jehovah's organization, the body of elders and I decided that you no longer meet the qualifications for an appointed man.
I understand what you're saying, but I do not agree with this decision.
If you've never been a Jehovah's Witness, this might sound like a relief. Doesn't being an elder just mean having a bunch of fake responsibilities to make your life more difficult and give you less time to spend with your family or pursuing other interests? Abso-freaking-lutely. But you have to sort of think about it in a different way. And I guess the best way that I can describe it for someone that is looking at this from an outsider's perspective is, imagine if you are a kid and the approval of your parents is like the most important thing, and they're always dangling it out in front of you, but never showing you or demonstrating their love and affection for you. The only thing you'll ever get is words. They'll say things, we're proud of you, well, we love you, blah, 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 but they'll never show that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They will be demanding, demeaning, controlling. They will just lord over every aspect of that poor kid's life and trying to essentially force them to work so hard in order to gain just a measure, a tiny little bit of acknowledgement from these diabolical parents. And then the kid makes a mistake, which inevitably will happen. And they immediately, upon that, say, well, we're not even going to call you our son anymore. We don't know who you are. You're out of the family. We disown you. Boom. That's what it feels like if you work so hard for the organization. It's the most important thing. All you want is that little title, that acknowledgement that you are part of the family, that all of your hard work, all of the sacrifices, personal sacrifices that you made meant something. And in 1 second, they can just take that away. And it's embarrassing. It's deflating. Quite literally, your entire valuation of yourself is intrinsically tied to their approval, and they're not going to give it to you anymore. That is how serious it was for people to lose a title of pioneer or elder or ministerial servant. Like, people would work their entire lives for this little tiny dopamine hit of a title next to their name. And while it might on the surface look like it's a relief from all of this needless activity, it crushes them. It destroys their identity and causes people to go into very deep, dark depressions. I've seen it many times before. I've had it happen to me personally. It is a terrible situation when the person that you're trying to get approval from takes that away. And this was Watchtower's way of controlling people, especially when it comes to not getting a higher education. It's always been a personal choice. I've known Jehovah's Witnesses who have gone to college, and that's what they chose to do. They didn't have any special privileges or anything with the congregation, and there was the social aspect, the social isolation aspect of it, but other than that, nothing really happened. So yes, there will always be people, oh, hasn't this always been their policy? Yes. But this is very important, that they're no longer going to judge someone. I don't know why, someone. And I think that's what he's not saying. What David Splain's not saying in this update is that we're not going to punish people anymore.
Analyze your motives. Second, analyze what the education would involve. Let's discuss these one at a time. First, analyze your motives. Ask yourself, why do I want this education? Many people pursue education so they can get a job that they'll enjoy, one that pays better or has better hours. Are these motives wrong? Not necessarily. For a Christian, this could allow him to pioneer or share in other types of full-time service. However, the Bible warns us of the dangers of materialism or seeking security in this system of things. If your motive is to gain wealth or prestige, not only might you be left feeling empty, but you could also drift away from Jehovah. Nothing, I'm going to repeat this, nothing should be more important to us than serving Jehovah. So view any additional education as a way to help you support yourself while you focus your life on serving God wholeheartedly.
So for all of the people that ignored Watchtower's advice and went and got an education despite it having consequences and despite them putting them on the outside of the congregation, Watchtower essentially said, we know your motivations, and the only reason you're doing this is for prestige, for wealth, for trying to not put God's kingdom first, to not be able to do free work for us. Even though, in a lot of cases, people did go to college and maintained their spirituality. They still stayed a Jehovah's Witness. In some respects, it allowed them or put them in a position to do more for Watchtower than if they hadn't, because they had a set of specialized skills. And yet, Watchtower would say, no, we know your motivations are all about greed and wealth and prestige. So now they're just saying, well, examine your own dang motivations. It's a monumental shift when you take a step back and think about it, because that's a whopper. How they used to talk about college is insane. One of the most insane examples that I can think of is this thing that Stephen Lett says, and I'll try and preface this again. If you've never been a Jehovah's Witness, it might be a lot to take in here, but just hold tight. I'll try and speedrun it here. But the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that before Noah's flood, that there were demons in heaven, and they looked down at the beautiful women on earth and decided, hey, I think I would like to materialize myself a penis and go and have sex with these beautiful humans down there. And they did, and they created these hybrid demon-human hybrids. I know it sounds like a video game at this point. And they were called the Nephilim, and they were these big, strong, superhuman with like the Avengers out there. And at Noah's flood, for some reason, they weren't able to deal with a little bit of water. I guess their superpowers weren't that cool, and all of the Nephilim died. This is things that current believing Jehovah's Witnesses think is a real historic fact. Okay? And Stephen Lett, in his infinite wisdom, in his big galaxy brain, had the audacity to suggest that because the demons had lost their hybrid children in Noah's flood, that a way that they are trying to get back at God or get back at you is to get your children to fall into temptation. And one of the ways that they try and get back at people is by making college a horrible place. I'll play the clip just so now you have some context for it.
At the flood, the half-breed children of the demons were killed, and their demon fathers were helpless, couldn't do anything. Could it be, the brother said, that the demons are now trying to get even? They lost their children, they're trying to destroy our children. In the same vein, perhaps we can support the parents in helping these young ones to see the dangers of pursuing higher education in Satan's system. See, often there's great exposure to unscriptural ideas, philosophies, and theories.
Now, he wasn't saying this definitively, but this delusional moron thought to himself, hey, I'm going to at least suggest that this is a possibility. Not only that, I'm going to decide to upload this for the entire world to see. So I think we can at least look at it in that context. So this is what they used to think about going to college. Even Tony Morris, he's got some bangers. I'll just play a couple clips of Tony Morris and some of the things he said about getting higher education.
If we should be that careful about our association inside the congregation, the application is even more appropriate when it comes to institutions of secular learning. I have long said, the better the university, the greater the danger. The most intelligent and eloquent professors will be trying to reshape the thinking of your child, and their influence can be tremendous. One mom, I recall, asked me to try and help her son, who was attending a prestigious name university in Rhode Island. After visiting him, I later had to inform her that her son now believed in evolution. She refused to believe it until he finally told her himself. How sad. Thank you, brothers, for sharing that very interesting perspective about the subtle mental conditioning that can transpire when exposed to higher education. Brother Brumley's experience in law school was nearly 30 years ago. Given the spiritual dangers involved, though, the governing body has decided that if we need additional attorneys in the future, we will not expose a member of the Bethel family to the environment of higher education. One brother likened his experience in a university setting to being in a house that is on fire. Spiritually speaking, he said, even if you escape alive, your clothes still smell like smoke. It has an effect on you. Higher education often instills a sense of superiority and self-reliance that is in direct opposition to the Christian personality. Like the smell of smoke on clothes, these traits can be absorbed very quickly and can be very difficult to get rid of once they're part of the fabric of your personality.
So everything that they've said is that it's dangerous. You're going to lose your children. You may as well just throw them in a pool with chum and hungry sharks, because there's no way that they're going to come out on the other side of that. And so if they're talking about it in this way, and someone chooses to let their kids go to college, essentially they're saying your motivations can never be pure. You can never have a proper motivation, because why would you want to throw a child with the sharks? And now they're just stepping back away from all of that. And again, I think it's really embarrassing. I think that if you're a Jehovah's Witness in 2025, you have to feel some measure of embarrassment, because with all of these changes, with all of the, you have like you're cheersing with your beard as your kids are going off to college. Imagine if I would have told you that that would be a realistic portrait of life as a Jehovah's Witness back in 2015. If I had said 10 years from now, there's going to be a group of Jehovah's Witnesses. The women will be wearing pants, the guys will have beards, they'll be saying a toast and clinking their glasses together, cheersing at the Kingdom Hall while they send a kid off to college. You would have said I was crazy. There's no way that this religion would ever go that far. And here we are. So anyway, I won't bore you guys or make this video too long. That's the update. That's about all I got to say. Well, not everything. I'm sure I'll come up with something by the end of the day, make another video about it tomorrow. But with all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And you better have a good ass day.